So there was good pitches, and then there was some really bad pitches. So I guess what made a good pitch good was, like I said, that ability to communicate value. So, what problem was their product solving, but not only what product was, what was the problem that they were solving, but also the steps to get there, the steps to get to that solve.
We're all part of this whole money game. This whole.
Welcome back to another episode of Beers and Business. I'm Abe Dearmer, GM over at Assembler.
I'm Andrew Martin, the CEO over at Teamgate CRM. Welcome back, episode 5. We're back again. We've stuck to the rhythm, which we promised weekly. But yeah, cheers. Cheers to another episode, my friend.
Cheers. Oh, look at that fancy cup.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Bubba Gumps in San Francisco for my new glass, which I definitely paid for.
The spoils of travel, hey?
What's been happening?
Oh, mate, it has been a pretty eventful week. It's been a busy week. I had last week off, so catching up on everything, being back in the office, kids' school holidays. Finally, the 2 weeks felt like a very long time, and it ended, on Tuesday they went back to school. So super excited about that. The kids were obviously just as excited to get back to school.
Nice. Luckily, my kids aren't in school yet, so no school holidays for me. But similar
You've been
boat.
jet setting, mate.
Similar boat, yeah. I've been over in San Francisco attending a global sales conference, so the Startup Grind Global Sales Conference, representing Teamgate, and also catching up with my team over in San Francisco. So it was good to have the week over there. Obviously, also been away from my kids and my wife. Came back to some very tired people in my household.
The kids, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the kids were tired. Charlotte was fine, so might do another trip soon. But we'll see. We'll see what happens as we move
that's
through.
Good, and that's going to be the topic of today's podcast as well. We're going to talk about Andrew's jet setting experience over to the US for a conference. So we'll go through what the conference was, talk about some of the learnings and what he found there, and also we've got some questions from the listener audience that we'll cover off on at the end as well.
Yeah, for sure. But first, of course, we've listened to your feedback, so we've got to give a quick shout out. So I'm drinking today the Larry Pale Ale from Your Mate's Brewery on the Sunshine Coast, probably my favourite brewery on the Sunshine Coast. These guys are pretty good feed, a really good Anzac Day as well. So Anzac Day was last week, so they put on a really good event there. They're pretty have a pretty tight-knit relationship with the veteran community on the Sunshine Coast. And I believe the Larry Pale Ale is actually voted Queensland's number 1 beer from last year or this year.
Wow.
So shout out to those guys. And they've got a really good indoor children's playground at the pub. So a really good one for people like me who have 2 young kids. You can go to the pub, throw the kids in the playground and have a couple of beers.
Perfect. Couldn't ask for anything more, right? Yeah. And that's one thing that Bathurst really is missing is good pubs with indoor playgrounds because it gets so cold here. There's one pub with an outdoor playground, but during winter when it's raining and stuff like that, it'd be great to be able to go and sit with a nice beer.
It's a balance.
Indoors,
it's a balance, right? Because I'm in Queensland and it's an indoor playground. It gets hot. It gets hot in there. So yeah,
don't worry about that.
It's a bit of a balance. But they've got some good industrial fans, and it doesn't seem to bother the kids too much. But what are you drinking? I think I saw a similar beer from last time.
Yeah. I messed up, and I've got the same beer again. I've got the Bathurst Lager. It's just so good that I just can't.
There you go.
Can't.
That's why.
Bring myself to drink another beer. But I'm going to make it a mission to go down to Reckless Brewing and get myself a little sample pack. So we'll see how we go there. I'm excited to try their full range of beers. So we'll see how we go with getting a little sample pack. But I highly recommend the Bathurst Lager. If you're ever in town or you see it on the shelves, pick it up. It's definitely worth a try. See if it tickles your taste buds.
There you go. Shout out to those guys. Two in a row. You're going to have to get something new for next episode. But
What, another brewery or another a different type of beer? I'm going to go to the same brewery.
Same brewery.
It's a local
you
brewery.
Go to same
yeah.
brewery. I'm
Sport
sure
local,
I'll go to your mates more than once. They've got a heap of different beers there, so I'll hit those guys up for some beers for the next couple of episodes as well.
Yeah, it's this week is really interesting actually. Just to talk a little bit about the so every week, as you know, part of our processes on a Monday, we have a catch up call with all the GMs. Every 2 weeks, I do it. Same with Andrew. It was just alternating weeks. And this week, it was all about setting goals for the next, like short sprint goals for the next 2 weeks. And so it was actually a really exciting meeting, going around and trying to confirm or deny an ICP and doing short sprints to achieve it. And I think it's something that we don't really focus on enough, about what we can quickly iterate on to see a result. And so I think it's really important to focus on that, and it just creates a clear outline for the next 2 weeks. It's like, hey, try and book 3 demos of this ICP. 2 weeks' time, we'll check on the progress.
Yeah, and I missed that one, unfortunately, because I was flying. But it'd be good to see if we touch on the same stuff this week. But yeah, and that ties into one of the topics that I'll talk about later today. Is one of the learnings that I brought from the conference was about product-led growth and how you can test that rapidly and get signals from your customer base. But we'll get to that as we go through the episode. But I guess we'll start where we always start, with the learning of the week. So I guess this whole episode for me is the learning of the week, right? Because it's based on what I did last week over in the US. But I guess to narrow it down, I think putting the conference aside, the learning of the week for me is the importance of catching up with your team in person. And this may not be relevant to all of our listeners because, some of you guys do have brick and mortar or companies where you see your employees every day. But for those that have, dislocated teams, whether it's a global team, whether it's even people working from home, in a post-COVID world, the value you get from catching up with someone face to face. So, my team and I hadn't only met one of my employees in person, so I got to meet the rest of them whilst I was over in the US. So being able to connect on that personal level, I got to play some golf with Chase. We had some good dinners and social events.
To improve on did you play Top Golf? Is that what you played?
No, we went to an actual golf course.
I beat Andrew at Top Golf
in the US
when we were in Las Vegas. No big deal.
Very debatable.
Well, the score showed that I won, mate.
There was some questionable scoring, and I believe some people took some of my shots, but that's fine. We could play again. But yeah, we played some golf, had some really good meals, had a really big night out together as a team on our first night when I was, just landed in San Francisco 2 hours earlier. So
always the way.
Always the way. Set the precedent early, and
so you beat jet lag, right?
And that's how you beat the jet lag. So. Yeah, that's my learning of the week, just the value of catching up in person. There's a lot of things you can do over Zoom, but just having that face-to-face is so invaluable. What about yourself?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people take that for granted when they work in an office environment or work in a in an environment where you see everyone every day. Yeah. You really take it for granted. And when you do work from home, you start to realise how hard it is to establish those connections. And you can try and do things like team get-togethers virtually, but they're just never the same. To be honest, they just suck. It's very hard to actually make them worthwhile.
Trivia.
People want to turn up to.
Trivia is probably your limit of that sort of stuff. But
yeah, and we tried, I can't remember what it is. We tried a few different games to play. There's like Jackbox, I think, was one that we tried, which is okay, but it's just not the same. But under my learning of the week. My learning of the week actually comes from Andrew Huberman. So he recently had a guest series where he talks all about sleep and the importance of prioritizing sleep. And it really just sort of cemented for me how important sleep is and how we just don't really focus on it. Everyone has like this, sleep when I'm dead, grind mentality towards things. But you're so underproductive when you haven't had an appropriate amount of sleep. And so I think that's a really important piece to look at, is that how how we can really work to focus on sleep a little bit more. And Andrew Huberman, he's a genius in a lot of ways, but he has done a lot of study on sleep. And one of the key things that I sort of took away from it that I'm trying to do, which is really hard when you work like we do and you work predominantly US hours, you're up early in the morning. And so his thing is, hey, you should wake up even on your days off within plus or minus 1 hour of when you'd normally wake up for work. And it's like, well, man, that's pretty early still on a Sunday morning. What am I meant to do? Like get up and walk around the house, wake everyone else up and, piss off my wife. That's, for me, that's the biggest part. And I've really made a conscious effort to try and do it, to wake up within plus or minus that hour. But then the other side as well is, how many people get into like a TikTok hole at 9 p.m. at night and sit there until 10 or 11 at night and they're like, oh, okay, maybe it's time to go to sleep now. Or you see those videos of people that fall asleep with TikTok still scrolling through stuff, right? Man, that's so bad for your sleep patterns. And it's not just the time that you spend on it, not going to sleep, it's also the quality of sleep that you get. And he talks a lot about, I'm not going to go to the extremes that he goes to of having, his house set up with red hue lights so that at a certain, come 8 p.m. at night, the red lights come on. And
red light district.
Yeah.
In-house.
It helps, your brain go to sleep and things like that. But, just simple things like if we're sitting there, sitting there at night with the kids at 7 p.m., we'll just turn all the lights off in the lounge room and not have those big overhead lights. And I feel like it has helped the kids get to sleep a little bit more. So that's one thing. And I think it's trying to get that 7-hour block of sleep at least a night is super important. And I don't think people focus enough on sleep. They just over caffeinate and get through life.
Yeah. And we've also got young kids. So I think the ability to wake up earlier on a weekend, it might actually be easier for us at the moment. Well, for me anyway, my kids are up at 5, ready to go. So, it'll be harder as they get older and actually want to sleep in. But for now, I have to go to bed early. Otherwise, you're not going to get that 7-hour block. So, yeah.
Stay up till 10 p.m. and pay the price.
And screen time is another one, right? And especially with the kids, like if they're trying to watch TV or crap before they go to sleep, it's just so harder to get them down. So, yeah. Definitely, we're massive on like block out curtains and making the room dark and setting that environment for the kids as well. So, what do you got for quote of the week? And
you got to let me go first here.
So the notes.
It was I think was it last week? I think it was last week. I sent Andrew because I was listening to a podcast. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to use this quote next week, and sent Andrew a message, and he's like, yeah, that sounds good. Actually, he didn't respond to me because he's a jerk. But my quote is from Jimmy Carr. He was on the Trigonometry podcast. It was really insightful to hear him speak and everything he had to say. But his quote that he used, he had a lot of good quotes in there, but one that I took away is, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. And for me, it was really powerful because at that point he was talking about how he was from, like, comedy in the UK was very much like a higher socio-economic band of people generally did comedy in the UK, and he was coming from a lower socio-economic life, and how he would always, and you still see him now, he always wears a suit, right? And he wears a suit pretty much wherever he goes. And that's his big thing, is that you should dress to a high class. And that's what got him to, arguably to where he is today. But then also I don't know how many people know this or if it's widely known, but for me, it was the first time I found out about it. He actually gave up drinking alcohol and I guess all other illicit substances, right, for 12 years when he first started comedy. And he said his biggest takeaway was he saw so many people that were so much more funnier than he was, but they just let the lifestyle get to them too much. And so at the end of the day, you don't know who they are, or you haven't heard of them anymore because of the fact that they drank too much, they partied too hard, burnt out, and couldn't keep up with the lifestyle. But yeah, that's and for me, it's absolutely right. Getting your systems in order is super important for when you want to be good at something, right? Like spending 5 minutes a day of drawing is going to result in you being able to draw these fantastic pictures in a year, right? Making sure that you do those key tasks week in, week out is going to result in growth, as opposed to just having spurts of energy and coming up with good ideas and then having to leave them behind. So I think that's a really important thing to take away from someone who's seen success and is probably one of the top comedians, I think, out there at the moment.
It's it's funny, and everyone's obviously gonna realize why we're laughing about this. So my quote's also from Jimmy Carr. It's funny that not only funny that we've done the same person, but also a comedian who's found his way two quotes into realistically a business podcast, right? So he's got some amazing podcasts out there where he's been and for those who haven't really seen the podcast, like Jimmy Carr from a surface level is like a pretty, he's funny, but not he rubs some people up the wrong way because of some of the content of his comedy. But when you listen to some of these podcasts, he's on such a deeper level. He's so extremely intelligent. And one of the better podcasts out there is Diary of a CEO. If you haven't listened to that, go and listen to it. Really, really good. I'd say similar to what we do, but probably on a much more famous level, right? They've got
famous level.
They've got
the quality's
Jimmy Carr.
Not as good.
They've got Jimmy Carr. We get Mitch McMahon from Zeus Electrical, but shout out to Mitch. His quote on this podcast is: in 30 years' time, you'd give everything you materially own to be the current age and health that you are right now. And it stuck with me. I literally forwarded that to my wife straight away, and I was just like, this is like, it's legit, right? Because you're so focused in the now, you're so focused in getting ahead financially, whether it's your home loan or the renovation or getting your kids into the right school and all this thing. Sometimes you can take it for granted and let living pass, right? And it sounds super cheesy, but Abe is someone that I look towards this. He's, a lot of people that know Abe refer to him as the robot because he literally, it's like he never sleeps and he's constantly on the go. But, he works his backside off, but then every minute that he's not working, he's with his kids. He's doing things. He's going to karate. He's going to dancing lessons. He's going to singing lessons. And it's the same with me. Like, you'll be tired after work. You want to lay on the couch and have a beer and watch TV or whatever it is. But just taking that and making that extra effort to take your kids to the park, get out and do something while you can, while you're healthy, while you're fit, whether it's getting back into a hobby, playing rugby again, or getting to the gym. Like, you're not going to have the current health and situation you have now. So make the most of it. So that's my quote of the week. We're going to move on.
Wow, that got deep there, Andrew.
Pretty quick because we got deep, and
I'm sure everyone's you're about to cry. What's going on?
We don't like deep, so we're gonna keep going.
Yeah, keep it light. Come on, mate. But you see the ad of the old guy lifting the kettlebell up and doing that exercise, right? And everyone's like, "What is he doing? What's going on?" And you see him go to pick his granddaughter or his grandson
up,
yeah, and pick them up and hold them out, and it's like, man. Health is one of those things that you can't be given it. You can't go out and buy it. You literally you just have to work for it. And so I think that's what makes it so special is the fact that you have to actually put in the effort. Like, you have to go for the walks, you have to go for the runs, you have to go to the gym, you have to do whatever. Otherwise, it's just going to disappear.
Yeah, and it's not a given. It's not a given. We're seeing it so often these days that healthy people are just taken out really, really quick.
Oh, yeah, like cancer's a big one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Out of nowhere. All right. Global conference.
Jump in.
And so this is going to be all about Andrew. So I'll try not to interrupt him too much and hang shit on him, but hey, who knows? But Andrew attended a conference last week called Startup Grind. So it's over in San Francisco. Went for a couple of days, got the team together, went out there, thought it'd be a good opportunity to meet some businesses that are starting up to try and get TeamGate CRM out there and see if he can get some new customers. So we're just going to talk about that experience. But I think anytime you attend a conference, right, there's always some key learnings that come out of it, like market trends that you're seeing or just personal experiences. So I thought it'd be valuable to, Andrew hates public speaking. So having this all about him, he's like, God damn it, why are you doing this to me? But I think it's going to be really valuable for everyone out there, whether it be you going to the US to attend a conference because you own a software company, or whether you're a brick and mortar store. I mean, everywhere across Australia has a regional development group. So there's one, out for the Central West and things like that. And going to these events, I think it's super powerful to meet people, get your name out there. But knowing how to interact in those environments for some people can be quite hard, and people get really anxious about those sort of social settings. About, am I going to come across as not knowing what I'm talking about? Are people going to like me? Are they going to be interested in my product? Are they going to tell me I'm stupid? Those sorts of things. So I think it's important just to talk about some of those experiences and I guess how he's feeling going in the conference. So, Andrew, what's Startup Grind?
Yeah, so Startup Grind, I guess it started years ago with just a couple of mates that were all entrepreneurs in the Silicon Valley. So, the land of startups. So they were getting together and sharing business ideas, and it just started to scale year over year and become more and more people. And now it's one of the biggest startup conferences in the world. So they have their own sort of sectors in each part of the world and part of the US, and then each year they do a global conference, which is what I attended. So all the startups from around the world would come and give pitches, and there were some presentations by some of the world's best startups or best founders, best leaders in certain spaces, and some trailblazers as well. So,
so is there a Startup Grind in Australia?
I don't believe so. There may be, but I don't believe so. I think they're predominantly in the US. There is some. I know there's an event.
Or is it one of those US global championship things?
Yeah. It's like world champion
baseball champions. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're predominantly in the US. From the people I spoke to, there was actually people that I met out in the town the night after the conference, and they were confused because they attended their local chapter of Startup Grind, but they didn't know that the global conference was on. So they were like, "What's going on?" But yeah, I guess the purpose is for startups to go and be able to pitch, as well as investors to also be there. So the two flip sides there, and then there was also some small business vendors there trying to sell their products to startups. So 2-day event. Teamgate attended because we're tailored to small business. So, I guess the purpose was to go and actually use it as like an information finding session. So, we didn't pay to advertise or to hold a booth. We actually just went to see if it was worth the money in the future to come back and see if we could advertise there. So, we went. We had some really good conversations with some of the startups. We had some good conversations with investors. But yeah, I think. The learnings I wanted to cover, I'll cover on 3 main learnings, I guess, from the conference, and then just some personal learnings, if I was to go back, what I would do differently, or if I was to present or have a booth, what I would do. But yeah, I think the first one is communicating value over features. And this is massive. This is something that we preach to our own sales teams. Abe, you preached it to me when I first moved into the business world, is value over features. So I listened to, over the 2 days, there was 150 startup
as Keenan
pitches.
would say from Gap Selling, no one gives a shit about your product.
Exactly. It's what's the value and why do I care, really? So there was 150 startups that pitched over the 2 days. They all had 60 seconds each, so not very long. They got thrown a microphone, they had a crowd, and they had to give their pitch. So there was good pitches, and then there was some really bad pitches. So I guess what made a good pitch good was, like I said, that ability to communicate value. So, what problem was their product solving, but not only what product was, what was their the problem that they were solving, but also the steps to get there, the steps to get to that solution. So there was one presentation that really stuck with me, and it didn't just stick with me. It stuck with my team. The next day I asked them a question without prompting them, what presentation stood out, and we all had the same opinion, and that was, I'll give him a shout out, is Joel from Quick Cart Africa, and I gave him a shout out on LinkedIn as well. So they've got a product that is based in Africa, and essentially what it does is it is a marketplace for people to buy food directly from farmers. So they get fresh food, and the farmers get money, right? So there's value for both sides of the house. So
a big debate at the moment, right? That's super relevant now because with the whole Woolworths and Coles argument that's happening, like, man, imagine if there was
relevant
like an
in
open
Australia,
market
right?
for that,
I think I texted you straight after it, Abe. I sent you a message and I said, mate, I just saw one of the coolest, startups here was this thing, and Abe's got family in the farming industry. Well, the value was, not only the families get firstly, the families are getting affordable food straight to their dinner tables, cheaper than it is in the grocery stores, and then the cash is going directly to the pockets of the farmers. So there's no middleman. The farmers are earning more, and the families are getting fresh food. It's not food that's been sitting on the shelves for weeks. It's not food that's been marked up in price. There's value to both people there. So shout out to Joel. We had a really good chat later that night at the pub, and he spoke to our team, about what they're doing and what they want to do. So that one really stuck out for me. So that was the good. The bad was just that they were more common than not, unfortunately. Most people didn't stick to the 60 seconds. They got cut off halfway through their pitch, or they were just throwing, information at you 100 miles an hour, which was just focused on features. And 9 times out of 10, it was just, we use AI to do X, and there was no real value there. It was just them throwing, what the feature is for their product, and it was pretty consistent with every other company that was there as well. So they were the bad pitches.
And I think that's really interesting, right? And I think probably a lot of that comes down to how much people rehearsed and probably did it in front of other people, because a lot of people just think, like, I can talk, I can just go and ham this in, no worries, without doing any sort of rehearsals or anything like that. I mean, I can talk for a significant period of time. Most people would probably know that. But if I have a presentation that's coming up, I'll always rehearse, because you end up going off track. If you don't have clear dot points that you want to cover in a period of time, you're going to fall completely off the wagon. And so if you were to give advice to people who are attending an in-person event, not necessarily Startup Grown itself, but some other in-person event, whether that be locally or across the globe, and they were asked to give some sort of time-restricted presentation, what would be your biggest advice?
Yeah, so obviously rehearsals is massive, but I think in the actual presentation, just communicate that value, be impactful. So say something that actually means something that's going to either stir like an emotional response or some sort of response, and then leave people hanging. So the biggest thing was, like, a lot of people were like, this is the value I offer. This is the impact it's going to cause. If you want to know more, I'm in booth 23. Let's come have a chat. Or if you want to scale your sales process, come and talk to me in booth 23. And then straight away I was like, I'd write it down, booth 23. I'm going to go talk to this person. So making that impact, and then making sure people know where to find you. But I would definitely recommend people go to conferences like this. But in Australia, definitely there's more things like networking conferences and networking groups within the local environment. So definitely worth it. But just know what your company does inside out before you go, and the value you actually offer. What are the problems you're solving?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And then, what about target audience? Do you think there's a place there to look at, like, okay, well, what's the conference about? Like, if I'm talking to a bunch of brick and mortar businesses versus a bunch of software businesses, like figuring out what you sort of have to focus on as a part of that as well. Yeah,
and of course the messaging is going to probably change depending on the audience. I would say that Teamgate went there in the hope to to probably find customers, and we left thinking, maybe startups isn't for us. It was, the conference was very focused on, getting investments, getting funding. So a lot of these startups weren't even at the process or the stage of having customers. So, make sure you do that research first. And that's why we wanted to go and see it first before we actually invested any significant money in presenting or doing anything like that. So, yeah, just making sure you research, understand the target audience, understand the problem that you solve for that target audience, so that message is impactful. Otherwise, it's just going to fall on deaf ears, which is unfortunately what a lot of the pitches did.
Yeah, and that sucks because all of these people are only going to get very limited opportunities to pitch.
You got 60 seconds. You got 60
seconds
across 2 days.
That's right there, right?
Yeah, across 2 days, you had 60 seconds, and you had a lot of investors, a lot of funding sitting in the audience listening. So, if
I guess that's why so many startups fail. Is not saying that the pitches are the issue. It's like you get 60 seconds, and if you're having a bad day, you wake up, you don't follow your sleep protocols, and you end up only getting 5 because you've got in a TikTok hole for 2 hours at night. Then your presentation sucks. Then people aren't going to listen to you and aren't going to be interested in your product. So I think that's like a really key bit there, is that you need to make sure that you can do it on a bad day. I think is the biggest bit there with those pitches.
And not like forget the pitch, because you need to know your value when you have those other conversations throughout the day. And the biggest value that I took out of the conference wasn't actually the conference. It was that night when we had happy hours or after hours where you go and have a beer with these people and you talk to them, and straight away they ask you, what do you do? And for Teamgate, it's, well, how do you differ from Salesforce? How do you differ from HubSpot? And knowing what that value is. So, it's so important to know. Otherwise,
and I don't agree with that. If you're at a conference and you're not going to the after conference event, then you're missing out of where like 90% of the business gets done. And it's just a fact of these conferences, right? I was in a conference over in the UK. It was a telemarketing conference, and it was just really interesting because after the conference, everyone went down to this one pub, and this pub was just packed full of people. And I remember I was talking to a large group of people from all different companies. And we were figuring out where the synergies, opportunities, because everyone's there to do business. Everyone wants to raise revenue, whether they're an employee that wants to hit their KPIs or whether they're an owner of a business that wants to grow their business. Everyone's there with the same goal. It's like, hey, I want to increase revenue. I want to see where I can get more business. So going to these events afterwards, you have really in-depth conversations, and it's often where the best value comes over. And after a few beers, you're like, yeah, great. Let's talk a bit more. Let's really get into it and probably say some things that whether I should or shouldn't say them, but you get a bit more, I guess, lubricated towards what you're going to say, right? So going to those after conference events, hitting that pitch and getting people interested, and even if they don't get time to come to your booth, you go to the after conference event, and similar to, what happened with the that company in Africa, right? That your quick cart wasn't, that you're now remembering them because you had that interaction afterwards and had that conversation probably over a few beers. It's like, great, now I remember these people, and what a great idea.
Yeah, unreal. And I would almost argue that the value is more in the after party than in the conference itself, because you're going to get to network with people. And, I took Chase with me over to the conference, and he connected with a gentleman who, it was completely random, but they were reading a 5-book series, and they were in the exact same book, like book 3 of 5 and the same chapter. And they just lost their mind and started, and this guy
was
was
a book club.
Yeah. And I was like, this is weird. Like you guys need to go off and have your own dinner date, because they were just, attached at the hip for the rest of the night. But that guy he already had a CRM, and he was extremely happy with his CRM. He said, I've got no issues with them, but I'd rather do business with you guys because I now know you, and there's a personal connection.
Yeah, Chase and I can keep up on this book series.
Then, we can talk books every time we catch up for a software review. But we'll wrap up learning one.
Learning one. So what was it?
Yeah.
Pitches.
So pitches, yeah, values, you know, you have to be able to communicate your value. If you can't, you're already a step behind. So all about value, what problems you solve, and going prepared. So that's learning one. Learning two, I want to get into because I think this is more relevant to a wider range of businesses because it's around growth. And there was a really good presentation by the head of growth at Mercury, and you and I both use Mercury. It's a like a small business startup
Somewhere
bank in
like
the
I
US.
think in Australia we call them neobanks.
Yeah,
I'd say it's a neobank.
yeah,
Is to make it relevant for Australians.
yeah. And this gentleman who he's now the head of growth at Mercury, but previously he was the head of growth at WhatsApp, which everyone would know what WhatsApp is. So he actually led the launch of WhatsApp business messaging. So he did a lot of testing
So
around
he's
that.
the person we can blame for
We
the
can blame
recruiting
if it's
messages
bad
and
or
stuff like
good,
that.
but yeah. But he did a really good presentation on testing and rapid testing and getting signals from customers and what that looks like. But the biggest takeaway was your company's going to reach a point of time where you're ready to grow or ready to scale. And that scaling, 9 companies out of 10, they go, okay, now let's spend all this extra money on advertising. And it doesn't necessarily need to be that, or the reverse, where you get to a point where you've stopped growing and then you spend all this money on advertising to get to the next growth milestone. So his point was you don't always need to do that, and you could look internally at product-led growth. So what I mean by product-led growth is think about your current customer base and how you can potentially offer new products to make more money. And that could be your growth. So rather than spending money to bring in new business, looking at your current customer base and what value you can offer them to grow your own company. So, for Teamgate, it might be sales consulting, right? We offer the software. Do we start charging for sales consulting on the side, which we already do for free? For let's say a builder or an electrician or a cleaner, right? Abe, you've got someone you work with that's a residential cleaner. Do they start saying, well, while we're at your residence cleaning your house, for an extra $100, we'll clean your car, right? You're already there. Your overheads are pretty similar. Your time is going to be a little bit extra, but you're saving time in travel. Is there a way you can scale there? So the big thing was about rapid testing. So, putting tests out there to see if your customers bite, essentially. So if you're the cleaner, putting a couple of coupons or messages in your, maybe it's with the card that you leave behind that says, for the month of May, we're going to offer, car cleans additionally for $50, and seeing what signals you get from your current customer base. And the big thing for them for WhatsApp was they introduced WhatsApp business messaging, and they saw in their testing there was a massive drop off. So from their current customer base, it was a drop off of like 90% after sign up. And they didn't understand
So they were
why.
getting into the business messaging and then saying this isn't for us, actually.
Yeah, so they were saying normal WhatsApp users were migrating to business as part of the launch, but then 90% would completely drop off, and they didn't understand why. And once they started to investigate, they realized that these were all the existing customers that were dropping off, and they didn't know why. But when they looked at the retention of new customers, it was 100%. No one was dropping off. So they needed to go back and talk to their existing customers and find out why. And the biggest thing was there was a step in the migration from normal WhatsApp to business WhatsApp where you had to migrate your number. And this is where everyone was dropping off because they were like, this is too difficult.
Not everyone had.
This is too hard, or I don't want to migrate my number. I want to keep my number. So when they spoke to their customers, they reduced this friction and removed it. The retention was 100%. So again, it comes back to whether it's a hypothesis test, whether it's just a rapid test, but knowing what the results mean and investigating the results. Don't just take it at a surface level. Go back and actually see what it means.
And I think that's really important about customer feedback, and it doesn't happen enough. Like if you are an electrician and you get to the point where you are scaling out with multiple people that work for you, whatever business you're in, right? As soon as you start to have something that's outside of your control, you need to start to ask questions of customers like, hey, were things done as you expected them to be done? Are people meeting the same standards that I would put on the people? for software, things like looking at that workflow and understanding the drop-off rate is going to have a phenomenal insight into exactly what's going on in your business. And I think that's the key bit is that, like if you're a hairdresser and you own a salon and people are giving out haircuts, you need to be able to look at some sort of way to quality control that. And you need to say, hey, Andrew's not, Andrew gives a shit fade. Let's stop him from doing fades, and no one can do fades with Andrew because he's shit at them. Right? And that's not a hack on Andrew. It's just like, hey, you don't have that skill.
Yeah.
You might be really good at doing something else. And so being able to get that customer feedback is going to do wonders for retention, building the company out. And I think that's a really key point there where advertising doesn't necessarily mean increase in revenue. And I think people think that, if I just buy more Google ads or buy more of this, if you're known for not having a great product, it doesn't matter how many Google ads you buy. You might get people for a month, or they might come in for one haircut, but they're not coming back.
Yeah.
So you've got to fix what's happening internally and let the product and the sales come through, as opposed to just trying to focus on advertising.
Yeah, for sure. And you see that a lot of people think, we had a really good month in March. If we double our marketing, we're just going to replicate that and we're going to double the customers that come in. And that's not always the case. You're just going to get poor quality or
you're going to spend double the money.
You're just going to spend double the money. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a really key bit. And looking for those. So it's interesting you mentioned about, the cleaner potentially getting into, washing cars while they're there, right? But she's already got a organising service that she wants to push more and more. And so that's, it's not the same, it's different, but it's sort of aligned with, the whole brand and identity that she wants to put out there. So what I say is figure out what those fringe elements are. Like you look at, barbers, and actual progression there is to offer hot shaves, right? And you upsell people. It goes from being a $40 activity to a $70 or $80 activity for a hot shave, right?
Yeah.
So it's just
Products.
something there that you look at where you can expand that. Yeah, selling grooming products, right? That are going to get people in. So for me, I think looking at where you can complement your current service and increase revenue is really important.
Yeah, for sure. And the last one, and I'm going to keep this one really brief before I move into some personal learnings, but AI, again, I feel like I almost went to an AI conference because I would say 90% of the startups were some sort of AI startup. A lot of the presentations were around AI, and I get it. AI is massive. But again, it comes back to your point from last week, Abe, about AI washing and like what actually is AI, and just not to be fooled. So we had so many companies come up to us and tell us what their offering was, and when you actually unveiled it or dug a little deeper, all it was them essentially bundling ChatGPT into some product and then trying to resell
like
it.
API call ChatGPT, and
literally all it was is like a workflow.
We pay like 3 cents per API call. We'll charge you 10 cents.
Yeah, 100%. All it is. Or they built some model on top of ChatGPT. So again, it comes back to reliance. So if ChatGPT goes down, this product is completely gone because of that. And yeah, just crazy, right? And just AI was in every title. And what probably annoyed me more was, and this used to be a thing about integrations, right? If you said, I'm the CEO of Teamgate, it used to be, what do you integrate with? What do you integrate with?
Now,
all the websites were.
Have you got AI?
Now it's, what AI do you offer? And I would just push straight away. I'd say, well, what do you expect to see in a CRM with AI? And they had no idea. They were just completely clueless. Yeah. Automation. Okay, what does automation look like? You want, when a lead comes in, we send them an email. I said that I do that now without that. That's not AI. That's just an automation. That's a workflow. So yeah, it was extremely frustrating. The team and I almost left. We left when we saw what the presentations
Let's go to the
were
after function early.
for the rest of the day.
Let's go to Bubba Gum Street.
We actually left, had some lunch, went and did some shopping, and then we came back for the after party because there was just like back-to-back AI presentations, which it was just exhausting by the end of it. So I guess it's not really a learning. The learning is, I would say, don't be fooled just because something has AI in the title or they're selling AI. Like, do your research and actually see. You could 9 times out of 10 you could do it yourself.
So many companies now are just like, we'll just put AI on the homepage, and then if people sign up for it, then okay, cool, we'll shoot about some AI. Setting the sales team up for failure, 100%. Yeah. But at least then they're like, we're not missing out on the trend. There's opportunity there. So yeah, AI washing, it's real.
It's real. It's real. Yeah, and it's funny that we spoke about it last week, and then I went and experienced
to a conference, and that's all you saw.
Experienced it in person. It was just terrible.
All right, let's get into your personal learnings.
Yeah. So again, and we'll keep this relatively quick. We're coming up on time, but what I would do differently, I said it earlier. I think Teamgate is more focused on small business than startups. So just making sure I do my research prior to going and making sure I know the difference between either. I did think there would be more established startups there, so more in they maybe received their first stage of funding and they're looking to scale, but a lot of them were brand new startups that had just been launched. Go with more of a plan. So I had a plan for prospecting. I think what I could have improved on is a plan for information gathering. So yes, we went to prospect the startups that were presenting there, but I think, and I came up with this, halfway through day one, was let's go and talk to the investors. Like, let's go and talk to these people that are here to buy startups or invest in startups and ask them, what do you want to see in a startup to fund them? Because, if they want to see specific sales analytics or funnel analytics that Teamgate can provide, then we might become a CRM of choice for investors. Because at the moment, if you speak to startups, they'll say, an investor probably wants to see us in Salesforce because
people right? Because they don't actually, it's like getting customer feedback, but the same thing about getting investor feedback, right? Is that
So just understanding what people want and what investors want, and that could potentially provide another avenue of revenue for Teamgate. But the other piece is, we went there looking to see if the investment was worth it for maybe next year to present in a booth. The booths that worked offered really, really good merchandise, and I'm not talking like pens and stuff. I'm talking like coffee. So for those who haven't been to America, for the Aussies out there listening, we have good coffee, really good coffee in Australia. In America, it is terrible.
Crap.
So there was one booth that was actually offering like espresso, real
Australian
coffee with milk. And the lines to get to that booth were like out the door all day, every day.
But like the other side, I get that, right? But like then, did you care about the company once you got the coffee? Was it
not at all? Yeah. But they got my details. They got my details because I wanted the coffee.
They're going to send you some stupid, AI written email that's going to go straight to your trash anyway.
For sure. But I think coming back,
they did spend a lot of money on the coffee, though.
They did spend some money on the coffee, but at the end of the day, that's like a couple of dollars per lead. You're spending a lot more on Google Ads per month generally.
Yeah.
What I would do is I'd probably combine it with when they did their coffee, they just scanned you had a pass, which I've got here. So you just had a pass with a QR code, and they just took a photo of that. So they had your details straight away. I would probably run a quiz or some sort of Google form that, like I said, one targeted towards, it might be small businesses and one targeted towards investors. So which are you? Are you a small business or an investor? And then I would target it, very specific to like qualification questions. So, do you have a sales team? What's the size of your sales team? How do you currently calculate your conversion rates? Things like that. So then I can actually, out of the 1,000 people that took a coffee off me, I can probably narrow it down to 100 people that are actually qualified leads, and then really target them post-conference. So that's probably what I would do if I did host a conference. Host a booth at the conference. And then I think the last point is, and I think you put this question down, is what's the difference between in person prospecting versus online?
Yeah,
It's hard.
that was me.
It's hard.
So could I, before you go into that, the tactics are up for boots. I saw some really cool ones that were out there. There's this one company that actually had their customer support rep, so it was a noise cancelling product. And so what they actually did was they got their customer success reps worked out of the conference for the day. And so they're like, all that conference noise didn't exist for them when they were talking through their headphones. So for us, like, I think there's different ways just to get creative about how you showcase the product. Poly AI, which does like AI support box, like by phone, so it's all voice. So you could call up and make a table reservation at a fake restaurant using their AI tool. So you pick up the phone, actually do it. So, there's ways that you can showcase your product instead of just offering coffee as well.
Yeah, for sure. And the other cool thing is that the coffee actually printed
Yeah.
the Beers and
good.
Business logo on top of the coffee. So that's really the only reason I lined up, but also was craving a good coffee. But yeah, get creative. I would say that the booths that were there were not creative at all. There wasn't much value being shown there. There was one was Bevy. So Bevy is a community-led product, which is actually made by the founder of Startup Grind. So he obviously had a booth there. Yeah, so Bevy is like a community-led product that was there. So it's actually founded by the same bloke that founded Startup Grind. So of course they had a booth there, probably for free. But they had some product demos going and a very active sales team engaging a lot of the audience. So they were pretty good. They didn't really offer any merchandise, but the way that they interacted with the crowd was really good. So
what would you say, like their interactions? What would you say set them apart from everyone else?
The way they interacted, right? So, and this gets to the last point, which is the next point, is offering value first. So in the value exchange, so prospecting in person versus prospecting online. So give before you get. So they came up to me and started talking to me, and that the first thing was like, oh, what does TeamGate do? And I said, oh, we're a CRM. Oh, how do you differ from Salesforce? And naturally, it got me talking about my customer support, my community, and all that sort of stuff, which led perfectly into his product, which is a community. And he's like, okay, so what does your community look like? How do you maintain that community? And it sort of led back into theirs. But again, they were networking for the after party, like, hey, let's go out tonight, let's do this, let's do that. But it was just a very very relaxed approach, the way that their sales team did approach you, and it was all about value. It wasn't so much about they didn't come up trying to sell me straight away. It was a conversation that we had. They were asking where we were from and all that sort of good stuff. So
I think that's really interesting, right? And you see it all the time with the people who are in the shopping centres and trying to sell raffle tickets for the RSL raffle that happens every year, or trying to fundraise for certain charities and things like that. Is that, and it always gripes me that they're constantly, I don't know, like they're not trained. They're probably just uni students that are there to earn some money and stuff like that. But just about how they go about it, and some very simple discovery style questions could really help out in a lot of situations, right? If you're trying to fundraise for the RSPCA or something like that, like asking someone, oh, do you own a dog? Oh, no, I don't. Like, do you own a pet? Oh, no, I don't own a pet. Okay. We're probably not going to be our target audience anyway.
Yeah. Have you considered adopting? But
yeah.
To be fair, like the conference in a whole was pretty good. Like the biggest theme and like the first presentation by the founder was, don't be here to get, like be here to give. So, when you have these conversations with other people, with other founders, give first. Like, how can you help someone else without trying to sell your own product? So I think most people stuck to that. The conversations that I had were pretty genuine. So yeah, that was probably the positive takeaway from the conference. But yeah,
nice. That's really good. I think that's a big thing, right? Is that giving value and making people see the value before you get something of someone is super important. And I don't think it goes back to the pitch, right? where you talk about, hey, give value in your pitch. Don't focus on your product, give value. Same thing goes for those in-person interactions. And if you haven't, if anyone hasn't read How to Win Friends and Influence People, then go and read that and you'll see all about that, right? Showing an interest in someone else. Like, we all know someone who just wants to talk about themselves instead of worrying about what you're doing, that you run into those people like, oh, God, here's Andrew again. Can't wait to hear about him talk about his kids for 30 minutes and then, wave goodbye. That's not how you build relationships. And so it's a really important point there, is to, open up the conversation, or at least spend a good portion of the conversation asking other people what they're doing, asking them what they're on about. Things like that make it a more value-driven conversation, as opposed to you just giving a pitch about your life and how things are going.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was good. And there was people that weren't like that, and you could tell straight away. They were the ones that you sort of
wanted to talk to.
Dismiss.
Yeah.
But we should get to. We had some questions submitted on the socials. Abe, you threw a post up this morning on Instagram, and you had a couple of questions come through. So do you want to address them?
Yeah. I'll address. I think the first one that I reposted there, not the first one to come in, it's the last one that came in before we started recording, was who could win out of a beer sculling competition, Andrew or I. I said we should get Mitch back on and do a sculling competition with him on the line, because he's an electrician and you all know he can't drink. So at least Andrew and I will be winners in some sort of sense.
We'll finish top two.
Yeah, we'll finish top two. That's a guarantee. But that's a good question. So thank you for putting that one in. That was tomorrow up in Townsville. Shout out to you.
Nice. We might have to do that next episode 6.
Maybe we could get her on. Get tomorrow. Talk about hairdressing.
There you go.
Oh, she's barber now. So, and the next one was from Chad Gill, he was my PDI when I deployed overseas, and like all good army friends, they're either going to call you fat, skinny, or old. And his one was, "Why do you look so old?"
I'll take that. I'll take that over fat or skinny. To be honest,
yeah,
I'll take the age. We've got kids, Chad. So I've got.
It was mainly just referring to me, I'm pretty sure, because I was on the
good.
video.
Good.
Yeah. No, you look young. You're quite sprightly there, mate.
Thank you.
You just had a week off from the family, so
you're
feeling nice and refreshed.
I'm rejuvenated. I've moisturised. Shout out to Chase for lending me some moisturiser in San Francisco. I've got the beard coming in. I probably need to shave it, and I'll look even younger. There you go.
Yeah, but yeah, Chad, man, I don't know.
Not getting that sleep. Not getting the 7 hours sleep.
Got to get that 7 hours sleep in, But yeah, that's why I look so old, Chad. And probably from my interactions with you, aged me about 10 years, I'd say, as well. Put me through my paces as your PDI, red shorts, mate. So the other one is, how do you think online presence helps local brick and mortar businesses? And that was from Nick, the brand samurai. So he's actually a Bathurst local. He runs a branding company, which is pretty cool. We've got a pretty good community. He'd be good to have on as well. Big on branding, which is great. Go give the brand samurai a follow. But to repeat the question, how do you think online presence helps local brick and mortar businesses? Andrew, do you want to take the lead on that one, or you want me to?
I could start. I think it's massive. I think I feel like online presence has replaced the old yellow pages, right? And the white. I actually got a yellow pages thrown on my front lawn yesterday.
Why do they
I could not believe. I couldn't believe it. I was
such a waste of money.
Yeah,
such a waste of money. Councils stop printing out yellow pages.
I threw it straight in the bin.
Yeah.
So I apologise for all the environmentalists out there, but I literally picked it up, unpackaged, and put it straight back in the bin.
Did you even have a flick through it?
No, not a chance. I can't read books. I need pictures.
In general.
So yeah. I think online presence is massive. And whether that's just through, if you're a brick and mortar, like Abe and I said a couple of episodes ago, we're review snobs. So if I'm going to a restaurant, I'm checking first. If I'm looking for an Italian restaurant, I'm looking online. If I'm looking for a tradie, I'm probably looking on Facebook communities. So, it's not just restricted to the Googles. It's probably, having a local presence in your area if you're brick and mortar. in Brisbane, for example, being in those community pages, being active. Mitch spoke last time about his presence and how he generates, majority of his business through referrals and through his online presence. So I think it's massive. I think it's absolutely crucial. I don't think ads is as crucial for brick and mortar. Obviously you're going to rank higher, but I think at the end of the day, people are going to look at the reviews. They're going to look at.
But I think people have become so intelligent online. Right? Sponsored, right? You see, as soon as you see sponsored,
you almost ignore
paying.
It.
I genuinely don't. Anything that's sponsored, promoted, or whatever, whether that's on social media, whether that's on Google, and you can talk about 6 touch points, you'll eventually go there and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe, but I'm not going to click on your sponsored link because I just know I'm going to end up at some shitty landing page that's going to ask me for my details or to buy something, and it's not going to be what I wanted. So, as Andrew said, massive review snob. I'll be on Google Maps and I'll literally just put in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go, I was recently in Adelaide, right? Just put in restaurants. And I was like, this place has 3 stars, not going there. This place has 4.7. Yeah, that seems right. I'm going to go there. And then you go there and you check it out. And you might have a good experience, you might not. But the chances of you having a good experience are so much higher with those highly reviewed places with your online presence than with some place that has 2 stars or doesn't have any reviews, right? If something that doesn't have any reviews, I'm like, no, not a chance.
Yeah, for sure. And like the week I had over in San Fran, right? I'm in a completely foreign place. I booked everything based on reviews. I booked dinner. We did a team building escape room. I booked that based on reviews. There was about 20 in San Fran escape rooms. So I booked the best one that I could find. I read the reviews. So yeah, I think it's massive. And
then probably with narrowing Nick's question right down a little bit to reviews, but reviews are so important for getting new customers. And I think for repeat business and people to come back to you, they need to be reminded of what you have and offers that you have coming up. So that's where I think social media and things like that. So if I go to a restaurant or I get a service from someone, I'm more likely to follow their Instagram page or their Facebook page or whatever. So make sure you give people an avenue to go and do that as well is another key bit. But being able to get people on those social media pages and then be posting about, hey, I've got appointments available this week, or get in, there's a local barbershop that does it really well where they say, hey, and they create this desire as well where they say, Friday, I've only got 2 spots left.
Yeah.
Book in now. And then it's like, Friday, all spots are gone. Book in for Saturday. Don't miss out. It's like, shit, I need a haircut. And if I don't book in, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
I think following up with social media is super important as well. Just to remind people that you're there and say, I remember them. I had a good experience. I'm going to go back.
And the power of community is so big. Like you'll see, if you jump into your local community group now on Facebook and someone's asking for an electrician,
like the Our Town ones,
it's not usually the electrician that's advertising. It's all of their customers that are like, use Mitch. Mitch was amazing. He didn't overcharge us. He was there, like quality work, right?
He's an electrician, mate. Of course he overcharged.
Yeah, definitely. He worked 2 hours, but it was
somehow the bill came out to $5,000 for an hour's work. I don't know.
But yeah, like 9 times out of 10, it's actually the customers that are pushing your company. So that's the ideal state. That's the state you want to get to, where of course it's great if you're on there and you're answering questions, but if you get to a point where your customers are doing free advertising for you, that's even better. So yeah, good question.
Yeah,
Nick.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question, and yeah, I think online presence is a must. If you're not doing it, you're not going to be seen. Definitely worthwhile getting into that. Yeah. All right, those are the 3 questions that we had for today, and Andrew, thanks for going through your startup grind.
We've gone longer than usual as well. And it was me talking, which just feels so foreign.
we had some feedback that it wasn't long enough, that we were just starting to get into things, and then they felt like we were rushing through it. So we've gone, okay, well, let's just make it a bit longer. We'll see it for an hour, see how it goes. If it's too long, or
you know,
If it's
we're
too short,
professional.
go
We're
for
professional podcasters now. We've got our own microphones, so we can go a little bit longer. We're getting
Andrew's got
comfortable.
his boom mic
comfortable.
in the mail.
I need a mic arm to make me look even more professional.
Yeah, exactly right. But thank you for everyone listening through. Got through the full hour. Congratulations, you made it. But like and subscribe on all our socials. As Nick said, brand presence, right? Let's get the Instagram. We'll post some updates, ask some questions. Follow us on YouTube. So Instagram handle is Biz and Business Pod. So we'll have
everywhere.
the
Everywhere.
app down here. Oh, everywhere. TikTok.
Everywhere. Facebook.
TikTok. Facebook.
We've got a TikTok
and
account,
go to YouTube.
but no videos yet. We'll get there. We're only just becoming
Our
professional.
online presence is crap.
Yeah, we're only just becoming professional podcasters. We're
I feel
yet
like
to
Nick's calling
master.
us out.
We're yet to master TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand. It's going to be sold soon anyway, or banned from the US, which will kill it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's why
Anyway.
we're not there yet. We're just prepping.
Yeah, that's a good excuse, right? But submit any questions. Love to have any engagement that we can, whether they be business questions or general questions, like if anyone else wants to ask why we look old, why isn't Andrew shaved, when's Andrew getting another shit haircut, then absolutely feel free to ask all those questions. Or if you want to see topics.
Or if you want to jump on the podcast.
Particular guests,
yeah.
Or nominate someone. We'll reach out to them.
Yeah.
Probably, anyone too high profile, don't be silly. We're not going to get like the Rock on here or something like that. But
we might get Jimmy Carr if we
might get Jimmy Carr.
Keep using his quotes.
Yeah, a couple of fanboys. But you can find the podcast weekly on YouTube and Spotify. So head over there, make sure you like and subscribe, hit that bell on YouTube and whatever the equivalent is on Spotify. So that way you can stay informed of when our new episodes launch.
Awesome. Let's wrap it up. We'll see you next week, guys. Cheers.
All right, cheers.